All right, we're up and running on the Friday edition of Talking to My Friends on the Internet. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes here to jump on, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I got some good questions today. Internet's been a little bit spotty today, so if you find that like I'm breaking up, drop me a note because I need to know that stuff. So anyway, what we're talking about today, really good ones. So it's finding motivation during the quarantine, or like you were making progress and you hit a wall. You know, what do you do about that? We're going to be talking about exercise and abs. Are they even related? Like, do workouts get you abs? I don't know, maybe. And then how do I feel about cheat meals? What's my take on cheat meals? And can't wait to share that with y'all. So I'm going to, let's see. We'll give it about another 30 seconds. So I'm going to drink some hot quality H2O, and then we'll get into it, okay? And let's see here. Let me turn some comments on so that I can interact with everybody as you do. So I'm using this software, right? I can't type back to you necessarily, but if you drop a comment, I'll see it. All right, so let's go for it. Let's start with the quarantine stuff, right? So this has been a huge change for everybody, right? Like life has been turned upside down, and we're not sure like what to do about it. We're not sure how do we proceed as normal? What is normal? Will we ever go back to being normal? All this stuff, right? And so if you were sort of on the train, thank you, Rachel. If you were sort of on the fitness train before this happened. If you're on the fitness train before this happened, and you may have lost some motivation, right? Or you may have your routine got turned upside down, let's call it, right? And that is, hold on, I'm going to mute this microphone. There we go. So you were making gains. When the world stops, maybe you lost your job or you got furloughed, or you're working from home now while you're homeschooling kids, and now you're working out at home and you can't go to the grocery store as much, and everything changes, right? What happens? And here's what I'm going to give you. So there's steps in the process, right? So the first, and this is a conversation I've had probably like 10 or 15 times with clients over the course of the last week, is like, first of all, there's a dichotomy, okay? And what a dichotomy means is there's two sort of opposing things, and we all have to find our place somewhere in the middle. So on one side of the dichotomy, there's giving yourself grace. Like, cut yourself some slack, because the whole world just changed. And it's going to take some time to just sort of find your bearings, so to speak, to orient yourself to this new world. So you do want to give yourself grace. That's one side of the equation. But then the other side of the equation is you have to keep moving forward with your life. You know what I mean? And so it's like, if those two things go in opposite directions forever, what does that even mean? How can you take it, how do you find your balance, right? Well, let's look at moving on with your life. Okay, so on the far extreme end of that dichotomy of, moving on with your life, there's some people who are going to pretend like everything's fine. Like, let's just double down, let's keep working, let's pretend like the whole economy didn't even shut down. No excuses bullshit you hear all the time, right? Like I saw that meme that's like, if you don't come out of the quarantine with a new skill, you never lack time, you lack discipline. And I'm going to tell you right now, you should hire me as your coach, because I don't post stupid shit like that, because that's ridiculous. No, like everything is not normal, and you're going to end up in a really bad mental place if you pretend like everything's normal and you think you need to keep charging ahead with everything full speed, right? Because what's going to happen is the reality of the world has changed and things are going to change, and if you can only pretend like they haven't changed for so long until you run into a brick wall and you get sidetracked and then you beat yourself up about it, right? So that's one extreme, right? So we don't want to go that far. We got to find our place. Like, how driven are we? How much do we want to move on, right? Now, secondly, on the other side of the equation, there's giving yourself grace, like cutting yourself some slack. You have to do that. You know what I mean? You have to do that. Now, you got to find your spot, though. Like, how much grace do you want to give yourself? It's a personal choice, right? It's a personal choice. And, if you go too far in that direction, what you do is you end up in a pity party in your pajamas eating bonbons, and this quarantine goes by, and right now it's scheduled to be 6 weeks or 7 weeks, right? Like the end of April, and so it'll be 7 weeks for our gym because we shut down a week before Illinois did. So for us, it'll be 7 weeks by the end of April. And I got news for you. It's not going to end at the end of April, right? So it's going to be probably 10 weeks, 12 weeks before this thing's all said and done. And if you just give yourself so much grace that you end up in a pity party and you never push yourself to move forward, you are going to be so pissed at yourself when this thing is over and you're just 3 months behind your life because you just decided that you didn't need to move forward at all, right? So it's finding your spot in the middle. That's number one. Find how much slack you're going to cut yourself and how much do you want to move forward, and find your sweet spot and go for it. Like, I talk about the concept of finding your sweet spot quite a bit, right? And that's it's a really important concept. You know what I mean? Yeah, right on, Ramiro. You got to adapt. And so, that's step one. Find your sweet spot. Now, step two is decide, who do you want to be? And that's just it. There's so many things. I think a lot of us, in our society, this is kind of maybe a radical thing, but I feel like the biggest lesson here in this whole economic shutdown and COVID crisis is that we're not in control of stuff. In our society, we think we're in control of stuff, right? We think we can go to work and make money and put it in a 401k account and blah, blah, blah. We can check the box and go through life and do all this stuff. And this is just such a great reminder that we're not in control of our outcomes at all. In fact, Angie keeps telling me one of her favorite calls I did for my clients, which I'm going to do an updated version, just put it out publicly, was about getting your mind right and kind of understanding that you don't always control the outputs. They're not exact. The only thing you do control is the inputs. You control your own reaction to it. And that's a huge, that is so important to understand. It's so important to understand because if you think that you're in control of the outputs and then things don't go your way, you have nothing to fall back on. But what you got to do is decide, where do I want to go generally, and what do I have to do? What are the behaviors I have to change? What are the actions I have to take to get there? And then you can basically rest your head on the pillow at night, sleeping soundly, knowing that you did, not only the best you could, right? But you do use this as a moral compass too. Did I do the right thing, right? There's so many decisions we're all making right now about finances, about work, about whatever, and they're all personal decisions. Whatever. Small businesses are faced with very difficult decisions about what to do with employees. You know what I mean? And there's no right or wrong. That's measured inside. And so if you control that input, hey, this might be a bad business decision, but I'm going to keep paying my people because that's what I need to do to sleep at night, to know that I did the right thing. I'm going to do that because I'm not controlling that outside situation. What I can control with my business is how I show up for my customers in this time and how I show up for my employees, right? And it's the same thing with basically everything in everybody's life. We can't control what's going to happen with our job. We can't control when Illinois or the federal government lifts the shutdown. We can't control the spread of COVID necessarily, right? We can only control our own behaviors if we decide to partake in the quarantine, if we decide, how we decide to adapt and move on with our lives in it, how we decide to modify our goals and make them more realistic for this new situation, how we decide to adapt to this real world. So that's where you find the motivation, is you just decide who you want to be and how you want to interact with this new world. And then from there, all you got to do is obviously take action. But more than that is to create structure in your day. So now we've decided how much grace we're going to give ourselves, how hard we want to press ahead, and we've decided this is what's within my control and here's what I want to execute. And then from there, you put structure in your day. Just because you don't physically go to work anymore, or just because you don't physically go to a class to Experity anymore, you want to still do the same things at the same time each day. You want to decide, this is what I'm going to do today because this is in relationship to the big picture of my life. Right? So this is what I'm going to do today. This is when I'm going to do it. Because when you're lacking motivation, structure is the only thing that's going to pull you through. Right? Structure equals freedom. I've said it again and again. You put the structure in place in your life, even if you're not motivated, you'll be able to keep moving forward when you have structure put in place. If you start sleeping in, going to bed late, watching Netflix, maybe I'll get to my workout at 1, maybe I'll do it at 3, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. You're going to come out of this quarantine in a world of depression. I promise you that. So keeping structure, keeping sight of how hard you want to drive ahead and what actions you can control, you're going to be so good to go. So, Rachel, I'm glad you're loving this one. Yes, Ange, healthy mind, healthy body. Yep, exactly. And Angie just said, it doesn't change for her, it just looks different. And it looks different for me too. It looks different for all of us. The whole world looks different for all of us. And we're never going back to normal. So That's finding your mojo in the quarantine. Give yourself some slack, but don't stop moving ahead. Decide what you can control and execute it with a structured approach. You're going to be happy with yourself when you come out of it. Okay, now I got a question from Judy. Judy's been working out here at Experity for a long time, like maybe 2 years. I don't know. It's been a while. And she's like, my abs look exactly the same. Like, what gives? And here's the thing about abs. Well, there's two main points. First of all, is you're gonna it takes a reduction in body fat. Okay, so you have to strip away all the layers of body fat on top of the abs in order to see the muscle. And that's the same of any muscle group, but unfortunately, we can't spot reduce body fat. So it's not like if we do a bunch of crunches, we won't specifically lose fat from that area, unfortunately. That's just the way it works. In our stomachs, it's genetically a little bit different for everybody, but our stomachs are often one of the last places that we hold on to body fat. And so, especially for women, they need to be extremely lean, pretty low levels of body fat to really see like a full six-pack of abs. But even if you don't want like the full six-pack or whatever, the amount of definition you have is going to change when you lower your body fat percentage. So if you are staying lifting weights, you're going to keep muscle in your body. If you dial in your nutrition, so that's really where the abs are made, and you lower your body fat percentage, you're going to see more and more definition. Now, that being said, you can grow the muscles of your abs. You can grow them just like you can grow your bicep, and they will appear at a higher body fat percentage because it's an actual thicker muscle. Now, you've been working out at Experity. Now, we don't do a bunch of that muscle growing work for abs. So the ab work that we do here, like the dead bugs, like everybody knows, like, they do like a million dead bugs, the dead bugs and the side planks and the leopard crawls and all this stuff, right? It's not necessarily about growing our abdominal muscles bigger. It's about getting better stability. So getting the timing right of all the little stabilizer muscles in our body so that we can function better in like more of an athletic perspective, right? So it's more about muscle timing than it is muscle growth. So if you want to see those muscles grow, you need to do like high rep pump and burn type exercises. So that's where your classic crunches come into play. We've got the captain's chair where you can do knee raises and leg raises and that sort of thing. You can use like Russian twists and that sort of thing can grow your obliques, right? So your obliques kind of sit here, and then this sheath of muscle on top, that's your six pack, that's called your rectus abdominis. That's where you're going to get like the straight crunching motions. Even just as little as 3 really high rep sets, like 30 plus reps at the end of a workout, will help to grow those muscles. And by growing them, they will appear, you won't have to get as lean to see them. But at the end of the day, if you want to see abdominal change, or you want to see changes to your abs, you're going to have to like lower your body fat percentage. That's just the way it is. I'm a great example. Last year in my cut, I got down to like 9% body fat or something like that as measured on a DEXA scan. And I still didn't have a full six pack of abs. And that's partially just genetic. Like some people just see their abs at 10%, 11%. This is guys. Women's going to be a little bit higher. But also, so I just have genetics, like I don't see full six pack or whatever. But then also, like I've just never done a ton of, that's called hypertrophy work, growing my rectus abdominis so that those little six pack muscles stick out. I just haven't done a ton of it. So it's like, it's cool because, hey, on the one hand, it's low-hanging fruit. Like, I can go start doing it and, like, go back to getting some newbie gains. But, man, the ab soreness, I don't know. I just don't know if I'm ready for that. So that's the deal. Abs are made in the kitchen, like, in terms of, seeing them, you have to lower your body fat percentage to reveal them. And I don't even want to throw exact numbers out there because it's different for everybody, and there's just different ways of measuring it anyway. So, work with some nutrition stuff, right? And here's about, like, I'm gonna tell you exactly how we work with our nutrition clients. We hold on a second, Angie. We track what you're eating and we track your weight, and we match the two up. If your weight is stable, then you're eating at maintenance, right? And so then we want to eat fewer calories than we take in. Generally, if you want to lose fat quickly, by 500 or more calories. That's going to lower your weight, and as long as your weight is lowering and you're still lifting weights, that means most of the weight you lose will come from fat because you're signaling your body to hold on to muscle, and that's how you lose body fat. it's both. It's obviously a very complex subject, but it kind of is as simple as that. The hard part is actually doing it and making all the behavior changes and being diligent about tracking your food. And there's more that goes into it, but that is like the 10,000 foot overview, and that's kind of how you do it. Andy said, would a bicycle crunch fit the bill? I feel like bicycle crunch, maybe, I don't know. I feel like they hit more your hip flexors than anything. Your rectus abdominis actually flexes your trunk. And so in a bicycle kick, your trunk is actually pretty stable and just your knees are moving, so it's more like a hip flexor type exercise. Hopefully that makes sense. So for a lot of you guys that won't make sense, that's fine. So I think I've said enough about abs. Now, all right, so then finally, what is my take on cheat meals? I hate cheat meals. More specifically, I hate the word cheat meal, and I hate the idea of attaching emotion to food. Like, if you really want to like blow your mind, there's no such thing as healthy food, and there's no such thing as unhealthy food. There have been people who have dramatically improved all of their medical markers of health by eating nothing but Twinkies and protein shakes. There are people who have become obese by eating nothing but clean foods, right? Because almonds and avocados are good for you, right? Yeah, except they're super high in calories. And if you gain weight, guess what? You've just decreased your health, because obesity is the number one thing you can do to increase your risk factors for cardiovascular disease, cancer, and all sorts of metabolic syndromes, right? So there's no one food that's good or bad, so I just hate the concept of cheat meal, because it's like, don't attach emotion to food, right? Especially guilt. Like, good Lord, you should be able to eat whatever you want, and like, you're still a human worthy of love. Just because you had a Snickers bar doesn't mean you should feel shame. Like, that's ridiculous. So how do I feel about cheat meals? I have cheat meals every single day. During quarantine, I've been drinking 3 beers a day. I'll get on FaceTime with my buddies. There's just a happy hour every single day. I get on FaceTime with my buddies. I get on Zoom with my brother, and we share screens and look at stuff for our trucks that we're going to buy when we have money one day. Like, all sorts of just random ass stuff. But I build in the calories to have a couple of beers every single day, because it gives me something to look forward to, and then I can structure the rest of my day around it, so that I get enough protein and I stay within my calorie ceiling. And I've lost weight. I've become leaner over the course of the quarantine by either having one of two things: either a couple beers a day, or Jewel cookies every day. For those who have heard us talk about Jewel cookies, what's up. So Rachel said it's like I'm hosting the Feel Good press conference of the quarantine. You're here for it. Awesome. So so cheat meals are stupid. The concept of having a quote-unquote cheat meal is stupid, because that attaches right or wrong, good or bad to food, which is just the absolute worst thing you can do. So here's the way I look at it. Like, as far as junk food or cheat foods or whatever, I want to be lean and jacked. Like, that's what I want. Okay? That's what I want for myself. That's not right. That's not wrong. For you, that's what I want. Okay? And I want to feel good and all this stuff, right? So, and I know in order to do that, I got to keep my calories in check. I got to keep my protein up. I got to keep hitting the weights, right? Cardio, I do cardio as well, both for health purposes and for fun, but we're just going to leave that out of the conversation for now. Nutritionally, I know that I need to keep my calories in check, and I need to hit my protein goal every single day, right? So, how do I do it? How do I handle a cheat meal or a cheat food? Well, I put it in first, right? So when I'm logging on my food, I put in 3 Labatt Blues, which is like 450 calories. Now those are gone. Like, I've spent that money. Now I've got a certain amount of money left, right? And some of it I have to spend on rent. Let's call that protein, right? Like, the stuff you don't want to spend it on. Well, that's not, you get the point. And then the rest is going to be expendable income for impulse buys or whatever the case is. But anyway, I build the whole thing out. So it's like, I put in my whatever I want first, and I build the rest of my plan around that. Now, when it comes now to healthy food or, unhealthy food, blah, 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 stuff like pizza, let's say, generally considered unhealthy. And here's why: because it's extremely difficult to eat enough pizza to where you're both satiated, but yet still under your calorie ceiling. It's just a very high calorie, high fat food, low in protein, right? So when I eat a pizza, I'm burning a ton of calories, But Labatt Blue is good. And she's like, I'm burning a ton of calories, but I'm not getting a ton of protein. So it's just edging other stuff out. Okay? Now, I freaking love pizza. Like, that's actually something that I used to have frequently, like once a week. For sure, I got my local joints over here that I just love. But it's just like, I wasn't a bad person because I love pizza, and I'm certainly not a much more righteous and morally upright person because I don't eat pizza now. I've just made the choice. Like, I'd rather be jacked, and when I eat 2 slices of pizza, I'm not freaking satiated at all, and it burns up way too many of my calories, right? So I'd rather drink a couple beers, have a couple cookies, or a million other things that just fit my budget better. Occasionally I eat pizza, but like not really, because I'd rather just be lean. And yeah, shit, I lost my train of thought. But that's pretty much it, right? Like that's what it comes down to. And so we were talking about cheat meals. Yeah, there's nothing morally right. It's whether it fits with your goals or not. Just please don't attach morals to food. Like, that's just asking for a world of hurt. So, I think that was a pretty long answer about cheat meals, yeah? Yeah, so Sheila, like that shame attached to food, like kind of resonated. Yeah, a lot of us do it. That's why I'm here to tell you there's no need to. And it's just like, you know how when you don't understand something, it can be scary, right? So a lot of people, and myself included, I used to be like, I don't want to track my food. That's unnatural, blah, blah, blah. But this, again, is structure equals freedom. If we don't know how a food is going to make us feel, if we don't know how it's going to affect our weight loss goal or whatever, our fat loss goal, then it becomes scary and we attach shame like it to keep ourselves away from it. But if we shed light in that corner, we track our food, so a little bit of diligence brings light to the situation, and we understand exactly how it can fit in. There's no more need to protect ourselves or whatever from shame. So that's, I don't know if that's the right word, the right, whatever. I think you get the concept, right? So being diligent in tracking, I used to say it's unnatural and it's a pain in the ass and it's all this stuff, but it's like, I just can't think, especially with my whole mantra of structure equals freedom, I can't think of a better way to have freedom when it comes to food, to have whatever you want and to make conscious choices if you want it or not based on how it affects you and your goals. So that's what I got for you. That, my friends, is all I had for today. So I appreciate you guys jumping on, following along with me. If you have any more questions, guess what? I have nothing but time to sit in my gym and talk to my friends on the internet. So please, if you have questions, shoot them over to me. Obviously, Angie drops a thread in the group every single week, you know what I mean, to harvest questions, but like hit me on Voxer, hit me on Messenger. Like I'm constantly keeping a queue of questions people ask, and you know, the ones that are going to serve everybody the most are the ones that get answered, okay? Yeah. Okay, so Angie brought up a question. What do we see? What do we see with the binge meal? What happens next with the whole binge restrict cycle? Angie, that is, you know what? Like that's a call for another day. To be honest with you, that's easily a 10 or 15-minute topic right there. So, so yeah, we're going to end it for today. We'll pick back up at some point. Maybe even tomorrow. Yeah, let's pick up tomorrow. Why not? With a call about the binge restrict cycle that comes with cheat meals when you consider them cheat meals and consider them shameful and blah, 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 blah. Okay, guys, I'm out of here for real this time. All right, much love, and I'll catch you tomorrow. I'm gonna jump in the group to the exact same thing and pick up where we left off, all right? Have a good one.